Hey everybody, in today's video we are going to look at Ferrari's latest Icona supercar, which has been spotted on the roads. For those of you that don't know, the Icona series is a series of cars that Ferrari launched in 2018, and it's aimed at collectors who would be looking to purchase essentially one-off or very low production Ferraris that resembled the Ferraris of old, the classics. Now, the next Ferrari to be released as part of the Icona series is codenamed F251, and it's supposed to be revealed sometime in November. Anyhow, rumors have been going around that the inspiration for this latest supercar comes from the 1967 Ferrari 330 P4. And to back up these rumors, there's been several photos showcasing the car under camouflage while testing near the headquarters in Maranello. Not to mention there's actually video of the car doing road tests to back it up. Anyhow, these photos that were released by Twitter user L. Jensen show a car with similar traits to the 330 P4. For example, you have the fender-mounted side mirrors and, the overall shape. Now, time for a little bit of history. So, if you're not familiar with the 330 P4, it's a car that was part of what's known as the Ferrari P Series. And if you're not aware of what that is, I'm going to dive into that. So the Ferrari P Series was a series of sports prototype racing cars that Ferrari produced during the 1960s and the early 1970s. And there were quite a few cars in this series. So there was the 250P, the 275P, the 330P, the 250LM, otherwise known as the Le Mans, the 275P2, the 330P2, the 365P2, the 330P3, the 412P, the 330P4, the 312P, and there was another variation of the 312P. So in 1963, Ferrari produced the 250P in response to the FIA, introducing a prototype class for the upcoming season of the World Sports Car Championship. Now, Ferrari made 4 250P chassis and a development mule based on a 246 SP chassis. All 250P chassis were converted eventually to a 275P or a 330P following the 1963 season. So these were to be used for the 1964 season, and they were essentially improved versions of the 250P with larger displacement engines and slightly modified bodywork. Next was the 250 Le Mans, which was developed as a coupe version of the 250P and was aimed at being a new production car intended to head into the Group 3 GT class and replace the 250 GTO as Ferrari's premier GT class racer. However, Ferrari wouldn't have enough units to make that happen until 1966, where it eventually became a Group 4 sports car. And just a note that the 250 Le Mans are incredibly rare cars today, and they will typically sell over 10 million USD at auction. Anyhow, back to the P Series, the 275P2 and the 330P2 followed the 275P and 330P in 1965. These new cars featured a lower and lighter chassis, a more aerodynamic body, and revamped versions of the old 275 and 330 V12s. Eventually, the 330 P3 came in 1966, and that introduced fuel injection. Now, if you saw the film Ford versus Ferrari, then you are aware of the 330 P3. That is actually Ferrari's car that raced in the Le Mans against the Ford GT40. Anyhow, that car used P3 transmission, and those gears were prone to failure, which is, just one of the reasons there's no P3s in existence today. After that, the 412P was a customer version of the 330 P3, and it was built for independent teams. These had carburetor engines instead of the factory Lucas fuel injection. The few 412P cars that have survived today are worth anywhere from 35 to 45 million USD. Anyhow, next up on the list is our potential inspiration for the new Icona supercar, the 330 P4. Now, 1967 was a great year for Ferrari, as it saw production of the mid-engined 330 P4, a V12 endurance car intended to replace the previous year's 330 P3. Only 4 of these P4s were ever made. These were entirely new, and one was a former P3 chassis. These had the same fuel injection system as the P3 for an output of up to 450 horsepower. The P3 had won the 1,000-kilometer Monza in 1966, and in 1967, the P4 would win the same race. In 1968, after boycotting sports car racing to protest a rule change, Ferrari had built another 3,000cc prototype named the 312P. 3 of these were built in total, and in 1971, another rule change was announced for 1972. And Ferrari abandoned further development of the 512M in order to focus on a new 3-liter prototype based on the 312B F1 car. Although this car was officially known by Ferrari as the 312P, it was often referred to as the 312PB to avoid confusion with the 312P from 1968. These new 312Ps with the flat 12-boxer engine were very successful, winning 10 out of 11 races in the 1972 World Championship for makes, and delivering the title to Ferrari. Scuderia Ferrari didn't enter the 1972 24-hour Le Mans, as Enzo Ferrari didn't think the F1-based engine could last a full 24 hours. However, he'd eventually be proven wrong. The team competed in the 1973 24-hour Le Mans and finished second behind Matra, which would also be the team's final standing in the 1973 championship. At the end of the 1973 season, Ferrari was forced by chief investor Fiat to abandon sports car racing altogether and focus instead on F1, and thus ended the Ferrari P Series. Well, if you didn't know about Ferrari P before, you sure do now. Anyhow, what did you think about that? Did you like Ferrari's prototype race cars? Do you wish Fiat never stepped in and told them to stop participating? I mean, there's no doubt that these cars are iconic for Ferrari. And do you think that the Ferrari 330 P4 is a good car to model for a modern-day supercar? Anyhow, I'm very much looking forward to the reveal of this car, and I can't wait to see what it looks like. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new here and not subscribed already, it would mean a lot if you would subscribe to the channel. I cover car news and I do car history videos, and if you like that kind of content, there will be plenty more of that in the future. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.